Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Fox with WESH 2 News and WESH.com, and this is another in our series of debates to bring the candidates closer. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Fox with WESH 2 News and WESH.com, and this is another in our series of debates to bring the candidates closer to you as we get closer to the primary election, August 18th. Right now, we're talking to the candidates in Congress District 11 in the Republican primary. Let's give you a look at the map and we'll show you where that is. This is a district that changed slightly under the new map drawn by the governor and approved by lawmakers. It stretches from Sumter and Lake counties in the Villages, east to Apopka in Orange County, and down to Walt Disney World, and also pushes a bit east into the area of Universal Studios. This is an open seat because Republican Dan Webster is retiring after many, many years in politics. So again, a new member of Congress will represent this district. Three of our Republican primary candidates are joining us right now: Carrie Baker, Tim Wilkins, and Dr. Nizam Razak. I'm going to try to get that right by the end of the debate. I promise you I will do my best. And gentlemen, welcome. I'm glad you had time to spend with us so that voters can get to know you a whole lot better. We're going to begin with an opening statement from each of you that will last 1 minute. And we'll start with Mr. Baker. 1 minute, please.
Okay, I'm Carrie Baker, and I'm not running on promises. I'm running on a lifetime of conservative action. I own a small business for the past 45 years. That business is the A.W. Peterson Gun Shop in Mount Dora. I also served in the Florida Army National Guard for nearly 32 years, serving from the jungles of Panama to the desert of Iraq, where I served in a combat mission for over a year. I'm a former conservative constitutionalist member of the Florida House and the Florida Senate, where I enacted, fought for, and passed many conservative pieces of legislation. Former Lake County property appraiser, where I ran one of the most lowest cost property appraisers offices in the state of Florida. And so what I bring to you today is just a history, a lifetime of conservative constitutional action, and that is what I plan to take with me to Washington, D.C. to better serve you.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Razak, 1 minute.
My name is Dr. Nizam Razak. I'm running for Congress, like my opponents, in District 11 in Republican primary. Let me be clear, I'm a staunch conservative and a constitutionalist. I've lived in the district for over 26 years. I'm a practicing brain surgeon in Florida for 35 years. I got into medical school when I was 19 years old. I became the youngest president of the Florida State Neurosurgical Society when I was in my 30s. I'm also a law school professor. I teach your kids healthcare and constitutional law. But because of that experience, I've seen firsthand how bad policies, governmental regulations, and Obamacare hurt real people like my business. I've seen the destruction of our healthcare system over the last 20 years. That's why I'm running for Congress. Seniors, veterans, and normal people, they need clarity in their healthcare. They need certainty in their healthcare. This is why I'm running. We cannot let socialist medicine take over our country. A vote for me will make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, thank you very much. And 1 minute, Mr. Wilkins.
Hello, my name's Tim Wilkins, and I'm running to serve as your next congressman for District 11. I'm a Marine veteran, a business owner, and a strong Christian conservative. My wife and I own a few small businesses, a private school, an animation company, and a faith-based production company that takes on the big social issues like the transgender athletes in girls' sports. I've spent years in compliance, health and wellness, education, and 16 years in the consumer debt industry, as well as 30 years as a professional communicator. This is a very important race. We have to look at all the issues, but we also have to look at who wants to represent us. We have someone who unfortunately can't join us today, who's a multimillionaire businessman, businesses in 12 states, overwhelming us right now with ads and mailers, but I wish he was here to defend those ads and mailers, and that's unfortunate. We all want term limits to have fresh ideas and fresh energy in Congress. We don't want any more career politicians, and we don't want people talking about the past. We need fresh ideas. This is a very crucial election because we just saw 25 Democrat socialists who are actually communists win their primaries across the country. We need fighters in Washington. When you need a fighter, you send in the Marines.
All right, thank you very much. Before we get to our first question, we'll do a little housekeeping here. We did reach out to Joe Strada, who you referenced in your opening statement, Mr. Wilkins. He declined our invitation to debate, and Yvette Palomo did not respond to our invitation. All right, thanks for speeding up my play to explain exactly why there are 3 of you and not 5 of you. Let's get to our first question. I want to find out a little bit about your priorities. And Mr. Wilkins, we'll stick with you for a second here. What is the first piece of legislation that you might file if you are sent to D.C.? And tell me about 1 or 2 items of a passion for you that you will pursue in politics there.
Well, we're all going to try to tackle affordability. There are many issues with affordability, home ownership, but a lot of those affordability issues right now are dealing with immigration, banning sanctuary cities and increasing the pace of deportations, speeding up the courts. We just saw a report from the Federal Reserve Bank that immigration and the surge through the Biden years drove up home prices by 30% and rent prices by 20%. Addressing that could make a big difference. Veterans Affairs as a Marine are very important for me. I'm looking forward to definitely expanding constituent services, not only working on the programs in DC, but the one impact you can definitely make in your district is having wonderful constituent services for your seniors, your students, and especially the veterans. One part of our district has over 11,000 veterans at just the American Legion Hall that need advocates. They need more advocates to make sure they can get through the VA system while we continue to make improvements. Doug Collins is doing a great job. President Trump has entrusted him with that job, but they need support. They need support in Congress and right here at home.
All right, thank you. Dr. Razak, what would be your priorities? You're a doctor, perhaps healthcare.
Yes, obviously healthcare in this country is a $5 trillion business. 1 trillion of that is fraud and waste. So we have to make definite changes in our healthcare system. The first thing we have to do, and the easiest thing, is to propose that we continue with President Trump's transparency rules. He put out an executive order that states that hospitals, medical companies, they all have to publish their prices. If we knew what we paid for our healthcare up front, we bring down the costs across state lines. So transparency in healthcare is very important. People right now are getting $5,000 copays, $10,000 copays, and they have health insurance. That doesn't make common sense. So that's the first thing we have to do, because healthcare is $5 trillion. The defense budget is $1.5 trillion. That gives you the enormity of this problem. And healthcare is the #1 employer in our district. It's the #1 employer. And it's also the #1 cause for personal bankruptcy is medical bills. So that's where we have to start.
Before I move on to Mr. Baker, I want to hear from each of you very quickly. We'll start with Mr. Baker. Are you a yes or a no vote on any cuts at all to Medicare or Medicaid? Just yes or no?
No.
Any cuts, okay?
No.
No, but if I may, Greg, very quickly.
We'll get back to you.
Okay.
You'll get to use your minute, but I'm going to move on to Mr. Baker. What's your big priority if you're sent to Washington?
Well, the big priority is securing America. So we want secure borders. We want to defend our military, and that means having the greatest military in the world, makes America safer. We want to support our law enforcement. We want energy independence. We want fiscal responsibility. We're about to hit $4 trillion in debt. That's going to be saddled by our children and our grandchildren. It's ridiculous. And I want to defend our constitutional rights. And if I had to pick, one bill, it may not be the biggest bill, but when I told you, I mentioned I served in Iraq, and when I came back, unfortunately, one of my soldiers committed suicide. And we need to address that. So one of my first bills will be, how can we better get the VA to focus on these suicides and protect and take care of the folks that risk their lives for us, only to come back and not receive the support they needed. And that would probably be my first bill.
All right. I'm going to go back to Mr. Wilkins. I'll give you each 30 seconds more. You wanted to say which on healthcare?
I did. I just wanted to point out that Dr. Razak mentioned that the healthcare budget is $5 trillion. That would make it the entire American budget. The biggest expense that we're experiencing right now is actually servicing the national debt, servicing just the interest on the national debt, followed by the defense budget, and healthcare is far down, but needs to be addressed greatly. And I find it very interesting, a man who's done very well in the healthcare industry, who's also an expert witness, driving up the cost of our settlements and driving up our health and car insurance, wants to fix the problem now, and he's done well enough to self-fund.
Well, I said I was going to give you 30 seconds, so now you also get 30 seconds for rebuttal. I'll give you a minute, Doctor.
Yes, I'd like to respond. The national GDP, gross national product, is $5.4 trillion for healthcare. $1 trillion is on fraud and waste. So that is indeed. I also am a law school professor. I teach healthcare law. I do not practice law. I teach your kids constitutional and healthcare law. So I know healthcare from the inside, because I fix things as a brain surgeon, and the outside, because I actually teach these bad policies like Obamacare.
Okay. Mr. Baker, I'm going to give you 30 seconds again, because it looked like you wanted to finish up your discussion about perhaps dealing with PTSD and other issues related to our troops coming home.
Sure. So we know it's a problem, right? And there's so many ways that we are not addressing it properly from the moment they leave combat. So for instance, and we make this mistake with law enforcement and firefighters as well. When something traumatic happens with a first responder, the best thing we can do for them is to keep them together with those that they serve. But too often we isolate them. We tell them go home. You know, when they leave their buddies, they don't get a chance to sit around and tell war stories, to drink a beer, share stories, and overcome this. We isolate them. We do this with law enforcement as well. If there's a shooting, we tell them to go home on administrative leave. That's the wrong thing to do.
All right, I want to talk about Congressman Dan Webster, who, let's see now, I'm going on my 40th year here at Channel 2, and he was in office when I got here. So he's a very familiar name. Obviously, someone new is going to be going to Congress in his place. He received the endorsement from President Trump. And I'm interested in knowing whether either of you believe that you'll receive that endorsement, and speak to the voter. Is it really that important, Mr. Baker?
Well, of course it's important, just because the effect that President Trump's endorsement has. And I think I've earned his endorsement through my long history of doing the right thing to serve this country, protect this country in a very effective manner. Dan Webster called me and asked me to run. I admire Dan Webster immensely. We served in the Florida Senate together. I believe I'm probably best poised to carry, especially his social conservative agenda. I'm pro-life. I'm a Christian. I believe America needs to return to its faith. And with that, I think there's going to be a loss with Dan Webster for sure. But I believe that ultimately I'd be the best candidate to move forward in the agenda that he's worked for all these years.
All right, Mr. Wilkins, endorsements, is it that important even if from the president, or do you have a different message for voters?
The president has an incredible amount of sway in these elections, especially this year. I was one of the first people to campaign on stage with him in 2015 and then again in 2016 in front of 25,000 people. And he's a loyalty-minded person. He really respects and appreciates loyalty. So I hope to earn that endorsement. I know that they would like to get a veteran in this spot, so I would like to be that veteran and that loyal person who will go up there, continue to carry forward the Trump agenda, and be that positive vote. I love this district. Congressman Webster has given us 47 years, if you're keeping track, and I have to drive home every day from the gym on the Daniel Webster Parkway, so I know the gravitas of everything he's accomplished and hope to carry that torch as well.
All right, very good. In case people didn't know, the 429, the Daniel Webster Western Expressway. Thank you. Dr. Razak, endorsements important even if from the president, or what's your message for voters?
Yes, absolutely. President Trump's endorsement is very important. I stand with President Trump on these issues of pro-life. I stand on voter integrity with President Trump. I stand on medical transparency with President Trump. All his issues, I stand with President Trump, and I'd love his endorsement. He has a huge influence in our district, and healthcare, as I said, is the largest employer in our district.
You know, no question, the largest concentrated voting base in District 11 is the Villages, home to roughly 150,000 people with an average age of 74. There are two main concerns: protecting Social Security and Medicare. I know we mentioned Medicare just a second ago, but Mr. Wilkins, if elected, what's your promise to support changes to not just protect those programs, but enhance them, and what would that be?
I don't like any of the changes that are proposed, raising the retirement age, increasing the deductions, removing eligibilities. It needs to be shored up. It looks to expire in about the next 5 years. We need to have some stopgaps put in place. We need to better invest it. They've invested it in treasuries over the years at an average return of 4.25 over 50 years, when the S&P's been returning 11.8. We've got to find more ways to get a better return on the investment of our seniors. And this is a travesty. So many of the seniors in the Villages paid in their entire lives, and people coming across the border have been receiving better benefits than they're getting. These seniors have worked hard. They've paid into the system. They defended our country. They deserve to have their retirement not only protected, but bolstered.
Dr. Razak, what is your vision for Social Security and Medicare when it comes to especially the seniors living in your district?
Absolutely. I concur with Mr. Wilkins. We have to protect our seniors. We absolutely have to protect them. We have a spending problem. We can't cut services to our seniors and our veterans. They built our country, and now they need certainty at this time of their lives. So there's no cuts for Medicare. There's no cuts for Social Security. We have a spending problem. That's the problem with our government. We have to find ways not to spend and to like give blank checks to foreign governments. We have to protect those people domestically that made our country great. That's my opinion.
Mr. Baker, what's your vision here?
Sure. When I represented the villages in the Florida Senate, obviously Social Security and Medicare was a big issue. I mean, it wasn't one that I could affect as a state senator, but I can tell you it's a big issue with them. And the bottom line is we made a promise. We made a promise to meet those obligations on Social Security and Medicare. And we're going to fulfill that. I will never vote to cut those benefits because there's so many other options to protect it. We can invest, instead of the excess funds right now just being spent, we can just invest it and get a return on our money. We can cut out the fraud, the waste, the abuse that occurs in Social Security and Medicare. All these we can do to shore up that system to better protect them. And quite frankly, I was just at the Trump rally in the villages, and one of the biggest issues was that people want to keep the money that they have currently. And that means we need to make sure that we no longer tax those Social Security revenues. That Social Security income that's coming to those seniors, they rely on that. And previously we're taxing it, now because of the big, wonderful, big, beautiful bill, we're not. And let me tell you, that's so important. It makes such a big difference in their lives. And so I will stand firmly with the folks in the villages.
All right, I'm going to stick with Mr. Baker, and we'll work our way down the line here. Right now, obviously, if you look at any poll that's been done in the past year, the economy is the biggest concern for most voters. Inflation hovering a little bit over 4% right now. People are worried about those high gas prices that seem to go up and down depending on what the headline is regarding how we're handling the situation in Iran. The Federal Reserve will meet later on in July. As we're taping this, we're in July, and they could raise interest rates. So we don't know how all of that's going to go. I want you to take a look at District 11, Mr. Baker, and ask yourself, where are some areas you can help people that are struggling in the district?
Well, affordability on all levels is a big issue. We know housing, and this affects the young people. I mean, right now I have 3 kids in college, and I wonder how are they going to be able to afford a home? So so to cut any federal regulations, federal taxes, any permitting, federal permits, it's burdensome, that stops and constricts home ownership is a must. We need to make sure there's availability of liquidity in the mortgage market, and the federal government can have a large effect on that. You know, I believe in market-driven rates, so we don't want them artificially low because that leads to problems, nor can we have them high because that's one of the single most largest factors for affordability. The federal government can do so much to affect energy policies. We should be investing in nuclear. We should be investing in affordable energy to drive these energy rates. It's a huge cost in the villages and everywhere. And so there's so many things that the federal government can do by reducing waste, regulation, taxes, all affects affordability right here in District 11.
All right, Mr. Wilkins, how do we tackle affordability issues?
Well, affordability does come down to 2 things: how much things cost and how much you're keeping in your pocket. So cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse and providing a tax break, building on the big, beautiful bill, would be incredibly helpful. But the prices of things, we need to be more energy independent. We need to lean towards nuclear. When it comes to homes, getting that supply up and the amount of people competing for it will also help considerably. But then we've got a new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, who I hope is going to look at the data and bring the rates back down, because they're not just rates for consumers, they're rates for people who want to build and invest and grow businesses and opportunities for those people. We need to move more good paying jobs into the district as well. The trades, we need to increase the tech sector in this area. We're ag heavy in a lot of the district. And we need to create programs that make getting into a new home more viable. I've worked on programs like this back in other states that help people expand their credit base and apply for these homes and actually get them. Home ownership is part of the American dream, and it's crucial that we return faith in the American dream, because you've got 60% of the kids under 30 that are thinking socialism is the way to go, and that can't be the future.
Dr. Razak, what are your solutions?
Obviously, our district is growing in population by leaps and bounds, so home ownership is very important, as my opponent stated. We need to protect home ownership. The one way to do that is preventing large corporate entities from buying tracts of homes. That's very important because that drives up prices, especially here in Florida. We can't let that happen. The second thing is, I'm a small business owner. I have 15 employees. We have to help bolster small businesses by making tax breaks for those people that run their own business, those people that sign checks, not to sign the back of checks. It's very important. Our tax system has to be reformed to allow small businesses to thrive. Small businesses hire 70% of employees in the United States, not corporations. We have to protect those small businesses.
All right, yeah, it's funny you bring that up. When it comes to corporations buying up large tracts of homes and so forth, that is a headline that I promise you we are going to be seeing more of in the next couple of years, because we get those calls, we get those emails into our newsroom as well. So thank you for bringing that up. I want to continue on the economy for a second here. The Florida minimum wage will raise to $15 an hour this September, and then that's it as far as the wage increase constitutional amendment that was passed. Right now, in Florida, a living wage is considered to be slightly over $24 an hour. There is a bill in Congress, the Raise Wage Act, that would raise it to at least $17, and that would be a big improvement over the federal minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, if you can believe it's still that. So my question, we'll start with Dr. Razak. Is that a bill that you would vote for, and why or why not?
Yeah, I would not. I think the wage is correct where it stands currently. I think we can do a lot more things, just as decrease the cost of living, as I said earlier, to solve our problems. Other things such as health insurance, that's a huge problem. We need to make it more affordable. We need to cut out the middleman. We don't need to raise wages. We need to stop fraud and abuse and cut out the middleman that makes prices so high. We need to drive American energy, just like my opponent said. If we can do those things, we don't need to raise wages. They can make America and our district affordable just the way it is by driving down the prices.
All right, Mr. Baker, you own a business. I don't know what you pay your people, but what do you think if you had to pay them $17 an hour?
I think it'd be very devastating to my little gun shop. Already, I'm struggling to pay what we have to pay. I can tell you in the past, I used to hire a couple of teenagers at the shop. You know, they'd sweep the floor, clean the glass counters, empty the trash, and now I can't afford to pay a 16-year-old kid $15 an hour. That's $30,000 a year. It's crazy, and you can see the effect. You go into your local 7-Eleven or Circle K, and there's a kiosk. Well, that used to be an employee, but because of these higher minimum wages, it's now a kiosk. You go to Lowe's, you go to Home Depot, kiosk, kiosk, kiosk. All of that's a result of these unaffordable minimum wages. So no, I don't support it at all.
Mr. Wilkins.
Also a business owner, and those costs have to go somewhere. So when you raise the price of your employees and your salaries, that has to get pushed along to maintain the viability of the businesses. We're seeing this now across the country. California was one of those first places that said, we're going to continue to raise the minimum wage. And the people who would buy the fast food quickly realized, one, they were out of a job, and two, their food went up. All those things continue. When you raise the price of the minimum wage, it actually devalues the jobs as you go up the food chain. So those people need raises as well, which continues to make the economy more strained with salary costs and cost to the end consumer. So that, I'm a no on that as well. We need to continue to find ways to make things more affordable. Healthcare is definitely one of those places for young people. They were forced to buy healthcare they couldn't afford, that a lot of times they didn't need. And now you're finding, since the Obamacare came in, I, for one, had my deductibles triple and my premiums go from $350 a month to $1,900. So I can't imagine what people who are struggling with lower paying jobs are going through right now. So it's important that it allowed us to pool with small businesses, with other small businesses, or as individuals into groups to continue to bring that cost down.
We'll stick with Mr. Wilkins here as we continue to talk about some truly staggering numbers. $8.8 billion in year two, $4.9 billion in year one. That's the amount of money that, according to the numbers crunchers in Tallahassee, local governments will be losing if the new property tax cut is approved. Why do I bring that up in a congressional race? Well, my question is, are you concerned that if this passes, that cities and counties are going to be reaching their hand deeply into the pockets of DC government and bringing federal tax dollars, or trying and fighting to get federal tax dollars to make up for those deficits? So I want to know, first of all, how are you going to vote on this property tax cut? And second of all, if you go to DC and you have to deal with the fallout, what's that going to look like?
Well, from what I've understood, from what I've heard, because there's a lot of misinformation on both sides, the cities and counties are going to be both disparately affected. The counties, thanks to our CFO, Blaise Ngolia, who's been going around finding the waste, fraud, and abuse, need to learn to tighten their belts. The cities, especially the ones that run lean, like Windermere and Wildwood, they're going to have to fall back on what Governor DeSantis is saying, their transitional plan that may be up to 10 years to let them find either alternative sources to backstop the lost revenue from the property tax or to find other ways within their district to increase revenue without decreasing services. The governor says he's got a massive rainy day fund that he will use. They will create bond initiatives. So from what I understand, they have an implementation plan in theory that they will put into place if this passes. And I certainly hope it doesn't go to DC, but if it has to, that would be disappointing. But I would help to find ways for municipalities to get through this.
So are you voting for it?
Absolutely.
You are. Dr. Razak, are you voting for it, against it, and why?
Yes, I'm voting for it. When we had COVID, did any government municipality shut down? Did Orange County shut down? Did Seminole County shut down?
They certainly got an awful lot of federal money.
So, I mean, none of these municipalities shut down from loss of revenue from property taxes. So, again, I agree with my opponent in this regard. If it does go to Washington for some reason, I will find ways to help make sure that our counties and cities stay solvent.
And so, since you've got some time left, so you think that that is potentially going to be the result, that they are going to be looking to Washington?
I do not think that's going to be the result.
You don't think that's going to be the result? Okay, thank you for clarifying. Mr. Baker, are you voting for it or
Yeah,
against it?
oh yeah, I'm voting for it.
Voting for it.
You know, every tax has a natural limit, right? Income tax has a limit, sales tax has a limit. That makes common sense. And property taxes for the same home has doubled in the last 5 years. Doubled. And so I can tell you back in 1934 when we adopted the first homestead exemption, it was $5,000. The average home in 1934 was $5,000. So we are in need of increasing it. And I was in the legislature when we doubled it from 25 to 50,000 with the voters' approval. So this will take it from 50 to the first year to 150,000 off, and then 250,000, saving the typical homeowner $1,000 the first year, $2,000 the second year. I think it's needed. I think property taxes have gotten out of control. Values have gone up. What the local government was supposed to do was lower the tax rate. Values go up, lower the tax rate. But did they do that? No, they didn't do that. So do I feel particularly sorry for them? No, they haven't necessarily been good stewards of the dollars. Some have. So do I have a little sympathy for those local governments that kept their tax rates low? Yes. And no, I don't support the federal government bailing out these problems.
All right. On the international front, so far, it looks like we've spent, according to the Center for International Policy, about $72 billion in our war with Iran. And now we have what appears, as we're recording this particular debate, we have some questions about whether there's going to be stability in any kind of an agreement to settle this. So we don't know how long this may continue to linger on. I guess the question is, Mr. Baker, if you are sent to Congress, are you okay authorizing more money in this conflict, or is it time to wrap it up and put a bow on it?
Well, it all starts off when I served in Iraq. The missiles that came into our bases and at our troops were Iranian missiles. The components of the roadside bombs were Iranian components. Iran is the chief bad guy in the Middle East. It funds, trains, supplies weapons to Hezbollah, to the Hamas, to the Houthis. And so do I support this war? Yes, I do. And are we going to get some great agreement? No. Every time Israel and Palestine was ready to finish up and make that final agreement, Palestine would do something to sabotage it. So do I expect Iran to finally sign some agreement that looks so great and wonderful? No. But have we reduced Iran's ability to wreak death and destruction in the Middle East? Oh yeah, taking out their missiles, taking out their factories, their airports, their Navy. So I'm supporting America's safer because what President Trump is doing to Iran. And if it costs a little more to do that and continue that to completely remove their threat to the Middle East, to Europe and America, I'm in support, absolutely.
Does that mean if I'm going to give him 30 seconds more, I'll give each of these guys a minute and a half. But while we continue to pay higher prices at the pump, is that also, if you're sent to DC, is it okay? And are you okay telling voters you just may have to pay more, and it may last 6 months more, it may last a year more? You're okay with that?
No, I am. Not because that's what I want, because that's just the cost of making America safer right now. And is it temporary? Of course it's temporary. You know, gas and oil prices go up and down all the time. Are they up now because of what's going on? Yes. Are they going to go down? Absolutely. They have for 50 years.
All right, Mr. Wilkins, you get a minute and a half on this.
Well, the gas prices are still not as high as they were under Biden without a war against terrorism and without them getting a nuclear weapon, which apparently they were a lot closer to than we were originally told. I was asked in an initial interview to run for office what my first political memory was. My first political memory was being a kid and watching the hostages that were taken by the Iranians. A few years later, when I was enlisting in the Marine Corps, my recruiter had just survived the Beirut, Lebanon bombings of our embassy that killed over 200 Marines. The Iranians have been a thorn in the world's side as the world's state sponsor of terror through their proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. And now the fact that they had long-range missiles and enrichment capabilities, something had to be done. I firmly stand by the president. He's usually got 2 or 3 chess moves ahead of everyone else and the intelligence we're getting from whatever information or misinformation we're picking up, so I support that. It's been a long time coming. It needs to be handled. I read in its entirety the JCPOA put forth by President Obama when he signed it. It was unenforceable and toothless. We need real agreements. And for the most part, we need to stop the spread of radical Islam across the world, from the sand dunes of Tehran all the way to Sand Lake here in Orlando. We're seeing this. And one of the things I would do when I get to Congress is ban Sharia law across the country.
All right, Dr. Razak, are you okay with a continuation of this conflict, even if it means people paying more at the pump here at home?
Again, I stand by President Trump and what he's done. I think Iran is a very natural threat to the United States. It's always been for the last 50 years. We have to change leadership in Iran, and President Trump has done the right thing by going in there and taking away their capabilities, especially their nuclear capabilities. In terms of what we're paying at the pump, yes, that's the only way Iran knows how to hit us, is through the Strait of Hormuz, is by preventing oil shipments through that area. In terms of continuing the war, my personal opinion is we have to stop endless wars. I think at this point, in this juncture, I differ slightly from my opponents that we have to get this job done in the next couple of months. I think we cannot afford to put $5 to $6 more trillion into the Middle East as we've done in the past. That's for our economy. We have good partners, such as the State of Israel, which is a pure democracy in the Middle East. We have to support our partners, but we have to do what's best for our economy and our oil prices. And that's increasing nuclear capabilities in terms of energy and our oil production. But we cannot have endless wars.
I'm going to give each of you 30 more seconds. Can we get it done in the next couple of months?
I think so. And Dr. Razak is right. I mean, we don't need an endless war. I've been a boots on the ground. I was in those boots. So we don't need that. I've lost friends. But do we need security in America? Do we need security in the Middle East and Europe? Yes, we do. And I think we can get this done at a reasonable. Are we going to get a great agreement? I have no confidence that we're going to get a great agreement out of this. But I do have confidence that we are going to greatly degrade their ability to threaten America.
A couple of months would be before General Election Day. Can we get it done, Mr. Wilkins?
I think we can get it done in weeks. You saw those first initial thousands of sorties that took out the prime spots, Natanz, Fordham, the nuclear sites. We've been really good every time they pop up and retool their missiles and their drone facilities. We take those out. I think we've got all the intelligence and all the plans in place to just get it done in 4 to 6 weeks and just leave a presence there in the Strait of Hormuz and in the Gulf to make sure that I'm with Kerry on this one. They are not good trading or treaty partners. By no means can we trust their word. So it's important that we get things done, knowing going forward that they won't keep to their word.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with one more question. I want to talk about transportation. Florida, as you well know, has been a donor state when it comes to sending our taxes to Washington and getting them back. We get it back on approximately 92, 93, maybe 94 cents on the dollar. But we've got huge roads that touch the district. US 441 runs straight up the gut there, as they say. And all of these roads in a very, very fast growing District 11 need some work. Bridges need to be replaced. So what would you do if we actually possibly file a bill to bring 100% of those tax dollars back here for our roads? And we'll start with Dr. Razak.
Yes, we don't have a revenue generating problem. We have a spending problem. So certainly we can bring those tax dollars back to our district to build those roads and the infrastructure we need, because we've got, hundreds of thousands of people entering our district since 2020, since COVID. But we don't have the infrastructure, as you said, or the road capability to handle the build out of these homes. So we absolutely must do that. But the best way to do that is reprioritize funds that are being wasted in fraud and abuse. I think those dollars are there. I think it's very important for our district to have more infrastructure.
Mr. Baker, would you file a bill that would make 100% of those revenues come back to Florida?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and here's part of the problem. Of course, I set transportation policy, or in part here in the state of Florida. I was a transportation committee chairman in the Florida Senate. And so we dealt with this issue on the state level. I mean, transportation is such a big deal. It's typically, in my opinion, the number one indicator of quality of living. Meaning, if you can get to work, get to church, get to school in a reasonable time, you're sort of happy. But we are failing. Now, on the federal level, one reason we're failing is because we're wasting money. We're sending billions and billions to California to build a boondoggle high-speed rail that probably will never get built. And everybody has seen, I hope people have seen these sidewalks with stainless steel rails out in the middle of nowhere. That's all federal money. Money could have better been spent on our interstate systems and the connections with our state highways and our state roads, and we have to do better. Transportation will be one of my more important issues.
All right. Mr. Wilkins, would you file such a bill?
I would indeed. It would not only bring much needed infrastructure to the region as we grow. You know, you talk about the 429. We've got tens of thousands of homes. That needs to be widened. 441. All these roads need to be maintained. And as we think about the 177 of 192 countries that we're sending money to every year, that would be far better spent right here in the United States. Then you think about the amount of jobs that would create. And if they're temporary workers from other states that are road builders and road constructors, they're bringing in revenue in food and hotels that would continue to bolster our economy while the infrastructure is being done. You look at the infrastructure, our air traffic control system needs to be revamped. We still have records being kept for the Social Security system in limestone mines in Pennsylvania. We need infrastructure, and if it was for this state and this district, absolutely, I would vote for that.
All right, our time is coming to an end. We're going to give each candidate 1 minute to close, and we'll begin with Mr. Wilkins.
All right, this is a very important election. Like I said earlier, the Democratic Socialists want to open up our borders. They want to open up the prisons. They want to defund the police, and they want to let radical judges run wild. I plan to be a fighter in Washington. One of the things I want to tell you that I'm bringing is not only a broad skill set of experience, but 30 years as a communicator, which is invaluable to this job, pushing the needle for legislation, gaining alliances, and most important, coming back to this area as your voice from Washington with town halls. Now, there are some distinctions. In this race, 2 of us have started businesses from the ground up, 2 of us have served, and only 1 of us has done both. That's me. I hope to be that fighter for you in Washington, and I thank you for this opportunity to win your vote. Go to Tim Wilkins for Congress to learn more.
All right, Dr. Razak, 1 minute, please.
Yes. Again, I'm seeking your vote for Congress in District 11. All the candidates in this district are running for this district are very good people. However, I'm different. I've practiced brain surgery here in Florida for 35 years. I've earned the trust of my patients and my coworkers. I've had accountability. You don't see that accountability in Congress now. That needs to be changed. That's why I'm different. I'll protect your constitutional freedoms that make this nation the greatest nation that ever existed. That's what we need currently in Congress. The question is, what type of leadership do you need? The biggest challenge in our district is healthcare. Who's going to fix our $5 trillion healthcare system? I'm a practicing brain surgeon. I'm also a health law attorney. I know medicine from inside and the outside, and that's why I think I'm the best candidate for your vote. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Baker, 1 minute, please.
You know, there's a lot of great speeches being given, a lot of great promises being made, but I think this election's a matter of trust. So really the question for you is, can you trust a gun shop owner to defend your Second Amendment rights? Can you trust me to protect your right to defend your family and yourself? Can you trust me as a small business owner for 45 years to fight for small businesses like I have been doing my whole life? Can you trust me as a combat veteran to take care of the folks that I served with in Iraq? Those that were killed, those that were injured, can you trust me to take care of their children, to take care of the wounded veterans? I would say yes. Can you trust me to file bills to cut taxes like I did in Tallahassee, to cut regulations like I did in Tallahassee? Can you trust me to defend the Constitution like I have my entire life? You know, I stand before you as just a regular guy, gun shop owner, combat war veteran. I served as a citizen legislator, and I fought every day for you, every day. And I'll do the same in Washington, D.C.
All right, thank you. It's been a robust discussion. I really appreciate the time you spent to share with voters your positions that are important for Congress District 11. And these are 3 of your 5 Republican candidates in Congress District 11. Again, we invited Joe Strada. He declined. Yvette Palomo did not respond to our invitation. You're watching another debate for Commitment 2026. This is WESH 2 News and WESH.com.